and everyone. I'm Maria Angela Fernandez, and I'm with Miss Julia De Luna, Miss Reaearch Juquino, Miss Shane Zarezo, and Mr. Aljon Sampaga. So we are here to you to present our qualitative research, which entitled Virtual versus Traditional Superiority of Learning to Learner this Pandemic. So here in our research, we have two types of learning na tinatawag. So meron tayong virtual or traditional learning. So when we say virtual or online learning, it says here that online learning is exactly what it sounds like. It takes place over the internet. It is a form of distance learning. It's interchangeable with term e-learning. So pag sinabi po nating online learning or the virtual learning, ito po yung ginagamit natin na pag-aaral ngayon, na kung saan it takes place over the internet. And also dito na po natin nagagamit yung mga technologies natin, yung mga gadget natin, and it is also interchangeable with the term e-learning. So an LMS typically stores the training content, which is accessible anywhere and anytime. So, yung LMS naman po o yung learning materials, ito po yung ginagamit natin, especially ng mga teacher natin, para turuan tayong mga estudyante. And also, here in online learning, anywhere and anytime, accessible po yung pag-aaral natin, wherein makakapag-join po tayo sa klase natin kahit nasaan at kahit anong oras po natin gusto. So, it says here naman po na traditional learning takes place in a classroom setting. So, ito naman po yung traditional na gawain or traditional na pag-aaral ng mga estudyante na kung saan nasa eskwelahan tayo, nasa isang classroom tayo. So, it says here that there is a teacher who moderates and regulates the flow of information and knowledge. Then the teacher expects the student to deepen your knowledge through written exercise at home. So, learning takes place in a classroom setting, wherein ito po yung nasa school po tayo, nasa isang classroom po yung mga estudyante at may isang guro na kung saan nagtuturo. And also po, dito po sa traditional learning, mas natututukan po ng mga guro yung mga estudyante sa kanilang pag-aaral. So, dumako naman po tayo sa aming background of the study. So, it says here that e-learning is defined as learning that makes use of information and communication technologies. So, dito po sa aming background of the study, dito na po yung foundation namin is yung e-learning or the LMS na tinatawag. When I say LMS po, ito po yung learning materials na ginagamit po ng mga guro at ginagamit din po ng mga estudyante para mapadali ang pag-aaral ng mga estudyante, ng bawat isa. So, dito po, ito po yung pamamaraan na kung saan itinataguyod yung pagkaaktibo ng mga estudyante at yung direktang pag-aaral ng mga estudyante. So, next naman po is the statement of the problem. So, this is a study attempts to ask the following question. So, first is, what kind of learning students are comfortable with? Virtual learning or traditional learning? Dito po sa number niya ito, dito na po yung tinatanong po ng research namin na kung saan nga ba mas komportable na mag-aral yung mga estudyante. Is it in virtual or the traditional learning? So, second is, how do you compare and contrast online learning versus traditional learning? So, ano nga ba yung comparison ng virtual learning sa traditional learning? So, pangatlo po is, what are the benefits of virtual learning versus traditional learning? So, dito na po natin makikita kung ano nga ba yung mga advantages and benefits ng dalawang pag-aaral na ito. So, next po are the following. First is to gain knowledge and wisdom. Second, to enhance the ability and skills of the student. Third is to evaluate a student's performances. So, unang-una po is to gain knowledge and wisdom. And pangalawa po is para ma-enhance kung ano nga ba yung mga ability and skills pa ng mga students. And third is para i-evaluate yung performances ng mga students. And next is significance of the study. So, the result of this study could benefit the government, students, parents, readers, and future researchers in the following ways. So, dito naman po sa significance of the study, dito na po yung mga benefits na maibibigay nung dalawang learning na kung saan yung virtual learning and the traditional learning. So, it could be benefit in the government. So, first, the government. So, in the government, this study would help the government to know what is best for the learning of the learners. So, yung gobyerno, dito nila malalaman, because of this research, dito nila malalaman kung ano nga ba yung the best na pag-aaral para sa mga estudyante. And the second na magbe-benefit is yung mga estudyante. This study would help the student to prioritize their studies more. Additional to the benefit, this study will also give them an idea about the more effective way of learning. So, sa pangalawa sa makakapag-benefit dito sa research po na kinanda namin is yung mga estudyante. Dito po is matutulungan po nito yung mga estudyante na mas i-prioritize po yung pag-aaral nila. And also dito din po makikita ng mga estudyante kung ano nga ba yung pinaka-effective way ng learning. So, to identify what is the most effective way of learning. So, itong research po na kinandak namin, ito po yung magiging guide ng mga parents kung ano nga ba yung pinaka-effective na pag-aaral pagdating sa kanilang mga anak at sa mga estudyante. And this study will also give them an idea about well the students are learning. So, pang-apat po sa makakapag-benefit sa kinandak naming research na ito is yung mga readers. This study would help the readers to gain an idea about the ways of learning and how important it is to the learners. So, dito po, yung mga readers po, matutulungan po ng research namin, matutulungan po ng kinandak namin na research yung mga mambabasa sa pamamagitan ng makakapag-gain sila ng knowledge, makakapag-gain sila ng idea about sa ways of learning. And also dito din po nila malalaman kung gaano po kaimportante yung pag-aaral ng mga estudyante, especially sa mga estudyante. So, pang-lima po na makakapag-benefit is the future researchers. So, it says here that this study would help the future researchers your basis of your study and additional information for your future investigation. So, dito po matutulungan po ng kinandak naming research ang mga future researcher din po. Matutulungan po namin sila at matutulungan po ng research namin yung mga future researchers sa pamamagitan ng magiging basis po nila yung study po na kinandak namin. And also, yung information po dito sa kinandak naming pag-aaral is may a-apply din po nila sa research na gagawin nila. So, limitation and delimitation. So, it says here that this study is only focuses on the students' learning. It was held in Malasiki Agno Valley College, one of the private schools in Malasiki, Pangasinan. The researcher focuses on the effective learning of the students. So, itong research po na kinandak namin is nakafocus po siya sa pag-aaral naming mga estudyante and also it was held in Malasiki ang Novalic College. Isa ito sa private school in Malasiki, Pangasinan. So, kami po mga researcher is nakafocus po kami sa effective way na pag-aaral ng mga estudyante. So, here in our theoretical framework, this article addresses that paradigmatic shift. It begins by presenting an overview of the history of online education. So, bago pa po magkaroon ng pandemic, ng crisis, is ang online education po is hindi na po siya bago. Dahil sa ibang bansa po is ginagamit na po ito. And 439 courses taught the 15,000 students because of the online education. Next is the conceptual framework. So, dito naka-input yung mga name, gender, and age po ng mga students. So, struggles of students' education during this pandemic is lack of sources and equipment of students during their online classes. So, isa po sa mga struggle ng mga estudyante during this pandemic nga po is yung kawalan ng mga sources and equipments para sa online classes. Pangalawa po sa struggles ng mga students is yung kawalan po ng focus sa pag-aaral because there's a lot of barriers during the online classes. And so the process that we uses on our research is the questionnaire survey. So here on our output, it says here that the online classes may or may not be effective. So maaaring maging epektibo yung pag-aaral ng online at maaari ding hindi siya effective. So pangalawa po is virtual learning or online learning provides easier access to course resources. So yung virtual learning and online learning daw po is nagpro-provide po siya ng easier access sa mga courses resources. So third is virtual learning offers greater convenience for the teacher and the learner and offer flexibility in schedule. So sinasabi din po dito na yung virtual or the online learning daw nga po is convenience po siya sa teacher and also sa mga estudyante. And also it offers flexibility in schedules. And last is, despite of this pandemic that we are facing today, students are still learning. So kahit na po may pandemic and crisis na pinagdadaanan po tayo, still yung mga students po is nakakapag-aral pa rin, natututo pa rin. So lastly is we have definition of terms. So we have the superiority, wherein the states of being superior or higher, etc. Second is deepen. It means make or become deep or deeper. Third is the novel SARS-CoV-2. It is a causal agent of coronavirus diseases 2019 or the COVID-19. And the crucial. It means decisive or critical, especially in the success or failure of something. And next is the F2F, which is the face-to-face. It means within each other's sight or presence. And last is the collaborative, produced or conducted by two or more parties working together. So dito na po nagtatapos ang chapter 1, and our next discussant is Miss Julia De Luna.
反正就你这一扔，然后它能粘住，代表它好了。
我感觉它一会儿会掉到你的锅里。
Chapter 3, Research Methodology. Research environment Malasiki Agnovale College was the chosen site for this research study. It is a private school located at Bonifacio Street, our high school principal, 324 are the total population of grade 12 students of Malasiki Agno Valley College. Our research was conducted at Malasiki Agno Valley College. It is a private school in the municipality of Malasiki, Pangasinan Province, located at Bonifacio Street, Poblacion. According to our principal, Mrs. Remedios M. Yuson, our senior high school population of grade 12 students is 324. Research design. The researchers use the descriptive method to gather direct perspective of grade 12 students. The selected respondents with regards barter versus traditional superiority come up with precise interpretation. The study would further have a direct comparisons of point of views on the respondents based on the hypothesis in the study. Our research used the descriptive approach to collect direct feedback from grade 12 students. The chosen respondents on the barter versus traditional superiority of learning of learners this pandemic A.Y 2020 to 2021. This research will also provide a direct comparisons of the respondents' point of view based on the study's hypothesis in order to arrive at a specific interpretation. According to Helen Dullock, descriptive research design is the method that assists the researchers to gather precise and accurate information that will base on different individuals or the respondents that you will select. Sampling design. In giving questionnaires, the researchers use simple random sampling. Each individual is capable to be a respondent regardless of their gender or age, but it should be limited to only 100 respondents. All respondents are equally chosen by the researchers. Our study used simple random sampling to distribute the questionnaires. All regardless of gender or age may be a respondent, but the number of respondents should be limited to 100. We researchers selected all the respondents in the same way. Respondent of the study. The researchers selected 100 grade 12 students from Malasiki Agno Valley College. This includes respondents from different strands: STEM, UMS, GAS, and ICT. These respondents are the main target of the barter versus traditional superiority of learning to learners this pandemic EY 2020 to 2021. The respondents were also classified based on their gender, religion, and nationality. We researchers choose 100 Malasiki Agno Valley College grade 12 students. This includes respondents from STEM, UMS, GAS, and ICT. The research virtual versus traditional superiority in learning to learners this pandemic E.Y 2020 to 2021 is primarily based on these respondents' sex, faith, and nationality. Were also used to categorize the respondent. Research environment. The study used survey questionnaire as one of the important instruments in gathering data. The types of questionnaires are dichotomous and multiple choice. This according to question 2. The question that can have two possible answers. Dichotomous questions are usually used in a survey that asks for a yes or no, true or false, fair or unfair, or agree or disagree answers. They are used for a clear distinction of qualities, experience, or respondents' opinion. Then the multiple choice questions are fundamental survey questions which provide respondents with a multiple answers option. Our research relied heavily on survey questionnaires to collect data. Types of questionnaires used were dichotomous and multiple choice. They're used to make a simple distinction between qualities, perception, or the views of respondents. Then there are the multiple choice questions, which are the basic survey questions that give respondents multiple response. Data gathering procedure. In the researchers has allowed the time, effort, and cooperation in development their questionnaires so as to serve its conscious respondents. The survey was created using acceptable questions modified that related to the students during this new normal. After the advisors approved the questionnaires, copies were contributed to the 100 students of senior high school at Malasiki Aknubali College. Participants were given time to answer the questionnaire, and the researchers collected the survey questionnaire after the answer. The researchers had set aside time, effort, and collaboration to improve their questionnaires in order to better represent their informed respondents. Our survey was made up of acceptable questions that were changed to suit the students' needs during this new normal. Following the advisor's approval, 100 students from Malasiki Aknubali Seniors High School received copies of the questionnaires. Participants were given time to complete the service during which the researchers collected the questionnaires. Statistical treatment of data. Statistical tools and techniques to present the result of the study is needed in the research. In this research, we will use bar graph, tables, and pie charts to show the gathered data by the researchers. Our study, statistical instruments and techniques are needed to present the study's findings. We will use bar graphs, table, and pie charts to display the data gathered by we researchers in this study.
So, good morning, Mom, and my dear classmates. I'm Shane Cerezo, and we will discuss about Chapter 4, Analysis, Presentation, and Interpretation of Data. So, first, we will discuss about the age range of respondent. In this table, it shows the age range of the respondent. There are 29 whose age range is 17 years old, 63 whose age range is 18 years old, 7 whose age range is 19 years old, and 1 whose age range is 20 years old. As we can see, there are two columns. The first column is the age range, that where the given age ranges will be placed, and the second one is the number of respondents. They put the number of people who are the same age. So, in the age range, we have 17, 18, 19, and 20. And the number of respondents, we have 29, 63, 7, and 1. And now, let's proceed to the gender of respondent. In this table, it shows how many are the male respondent and female respondent. There are 42 male respondent and 58 female respondent. When we say gender of respondent, it shows the frequency and percentage of a respondent's age. You will identify the age range and the number of respondents of that table. In age range, it defined the male and female, and the number of respondents, it identified the total number of male and female. So let's proceed to the graph 1, the impact of online learning. The graph shows that 48.6% of the respondents answered the average impact of online learning to them, while there are 34.3% who answered good with the impact of online learning and 17.2% of the respondents answered poor. In this graph, we have blue, which is the average of 48.6%, and the sky blue is good of 34.3%, and the last one, light blue, which is poor of 17.2%. Next, the graph 2, entitled Device that Used for Online Learning. The graph shows that majority of the respondents, 85.6% of them, are using a smartphone for their online learning, while 10.8% of the respondents are using laptop, and the remaining 3.6% of the respondents are using tablet. In this graph, we have a smartphone, which is the 85.6%, and next the laptop is 10.8%, and the tablet is 3.6%. Use that the capacity of smartphone usage is greater than that of tablet and laptop. Let's proceed to the graph 3, the time that is spent on online learning. The graph shows that most of the respondents are spending their time on online learning for about 3 to 5 hours with 49.5%, while the other respondents are spending their time for about 5 to 7 hours with 37.8%, and few respondents are spending their time on online learning for above 1 to 3 hours with 12.7% of them. According to the pre-pandemic report, the average American teen spend approximately 7 hours online per day. And now we will discuss about the time that's spent on online learning. We can see that the highest is 3 to 5 hours, which is the 49.5%, and second to the highest is 5 to 7 hours, which is the 37.8%, or the lowest of all is 1 to 3 hours, which is the 12.7%. Next is the graph 4, difficulty of the class curriculum. In the graph, it shows that most of the respondents are experiencing difficult in the class curriculum with 82.9%, while few of respondents are experiencing very difficult with 7.2%, and the other respondents are experiencing easy on their class curriculum. First, I will give some example of difficulty. First is lack of teamwork, empathy, and support between students. Second is teachers working too many rules at the same time. Third is not enough time to plan their work. As we can see, you have a greater chance to making a mistake with 7.2%, that's easy with 9.9%. Next is the graph 5, having access to a device for learning online. The graph shows that majority of the respondents have access to a device with 70.3%, while other respondents have access but does not work well with 24.3%. The other respondents have no access to a device for their online learning with 3.1%, and the few respondents are sharing with others. All of us use device for online learning, but we didn't learn unlike we have face-to-face learning because some of us have poor signal, so we can connect and join to the online class at a time. Next is the graph 6, Is online learning helpful than traditional learning? The graph shows that majority of the respondents disagree that online learning helps to gain more knowledge and to socialize with 62.2%, while 37.8% of the respondents agreed that online learning helps to gain more knowledge and to socialize. For me, traditional learning is better than online learning because in face-to-face you can learn more and you can listen to your teachers loud and clear. Because sometimes in online class we encounter poor signal and we can connect and communicate to each other. Next is the graph 7, confidence of composing text on a computer. The graph shows that majority of the respondent does not comfortable composing text on a computer with 55%, while the 45% of the respondent are comfortable composing text on a computer. As we can see on the graph, that the percentage is bigger by 55 because it is more comfortable to compose text on a computer than on other devices. Next is the graph 8, traditional learning over online learning. The graph shows that majority of the respondents prefer traditional learning over online learning, with 86.5%, while 13.5% of the respondents doesn't prefer traditional learning over online learning. I will notice that the percentage of traditional learning is higher than online learning. In traditional learning, we have 86.5% and in online learning, we have 13.5%. Next is the graph 9, having a hard time on online way of learning. The graph shows that majority of the respondents are having a hard time copying up with online learning with 79.3%, while the 20.7% of the respondent doesn't have a hard time copying up with online way of learning. For me, students have a hard time copying up with online because teachers teaches them well and they have not enough time to learn. Next is the graph 10. Next is the graph 10. Parents or guardian helps you in doing your assigned tasks. The graph shows that 86.5% of the respondents are not helping by their parents or guardian in doing their assigned tasks or assignment, while there are 13.5% of the respondents are helping by their parents or guardian in doing their assigned task or assignment. For me, yes, because most of the parents didn't help their child in their studies because they are busy in their work or they have a lot to do. But for me, my parents helping in my studies if they know that it's hard for me to do it on my own. Use of online learning until the pandemic ends. The graph shows that majority of the respondents doesn't like to continue the online learning unlike the pandemic ends, with 55%, while 45% of the respondents like to continue the online way of learning until the pandemic ends. I can see in the graph that there are only a few of 10% of them does not differ, but we don't know how long the pandemic will last, so there is a possibility that the 55% will increase. Entitled Socializing Well with Classmates, the graph shows that majority of the respondents are socializing well with their classmates, with 60.4%, while the 39.6% of the respondents doesn't socialize with their classmates. The percentage of yes is higher because we have a longer time with our classmates during the times when there are no pandemic, while the 39.6% we can be with them, we can see and bonding with them. Entitled Quiet Space for Daily Schoolworks, the majority of the respondents have no quiet space for their daily schoolworks with 52.3%, while the 47.7% have a quiet space for their daily schoolworks. Some students doesn't have quiet space because some of us have vacant in their house to do their homework. Entitled Online Education for Face-to-Face Instruction. The graph shows that majority of the respondents disagree that online education is effective as face-to-face instruction, with 66.7%, while 33.3% of the respondents agree that online education is effective as face-to-face instruction. Yes, majority of the respondents disagree that online education is effective as face-to-face because in traditional learning, you can learn more and teachers can discuss their topic well. Last, the graph 15, feasibility of online learning than traditional learning. The graph shows that majority of the respondents disagree that online learning is feasible than traditional learning with 73.9%, while 26.1% of the respondents agreed that online learning is feasible than traditional learning. I agree to the majority of the respondents that the traditional learning is feasible than online class because in traditional you can have more time to learn and to do their activities.
Chapter 5 Conclusion and Recommendation. Conclusion. In conclusion, the evaluation of educational value levels in online and traditional education show that traditional education is highly valuable compared to online education, and appears truly that online education does not produce highly competent students despite its popularity and sophistication. Kung dito sa conclusion, ayon sa mga estudyante, ang edukasyon ay online at traditional ay nagpapakita ng malaking pagkakaiba. Ang edukasyong online ay nagsasabi na isang mag-aaral kumpara sa edukasyong traditional na sumasalamin sa maraming kataasan ang mabuting pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral. Recommendations. This part, recommendations by the research for the school students and future research will be enumerated. Suggestions and opinions will be coming from the research on outcome of the survey. Related to school officials and government should give time for students and adjust for the transition of a new learning system and create a plan where these students stay of living and health and considerate. Dito naman sa recommendation, dapat mong isaalang-alang ang pagbibigay sa mag-aaral ng isang espesyal na oras upang gawin ang kanilang mga gawain at responsibilidad. Dapat na lubos na bigyan ng mga guro ang sapat na oras para sa hindi nagawa na mga pagtatasa.